Welcome to SBJ Spotlight. I'm John Oran, media reporter with SBJ, and we're joined by Anish Shroff, who recently has been announced as the play-by-play announcer for the Carolina Panthers on radio. Anish, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me.
So you have a career. You've been on ESPN, of course. You're doing the radio. Take me through your journey. How did you get to this point?
Winding road, and as you know, nobody in this business has the same path. And so for me, as a kid, I grew up listening to radio. Radio was part of my childhood. We didn't have cable. I didn't have ESPN growing up. So growing up in New Jersey, New York, it was Mike and the Mad Dog when I got home from school, and then Jets and Giants games on the radio, Ian Eagle, Bob Papa. I'd listen to the Yankees at night with John Sterling and Michael Kay at the time. And that was a real big part of my childhood. It kind of fostered my love of this business. And then I wanted to be a radio play-by-play guy growing up. And I went to school. I went to Syracuse. I did a lot of college radio there at WAER, our student-run station, where some of those luminaries had come before me, the Marv Alberts and the Costases and Ian Eagles and Len Bermans. And then television took me on a different track. And so I got on TV and I worked in a couple of small markets, Yakima, Washington, Syracuse, New York. Still dipped my toe in the play-by-play pool while I was working in local news. And then when I got to ESPN, they originally hired me as an anchor for ESPN News. And I was pretty young at the time. And I said, okay, I guess this is the path, right? As they say in The Mandalorian, this is the way. And an opportunity came up once to do a lacrosse game. And that one lacrosse game led to some football, and football led to more football and more lacrosse and some basketball. And all of a sudden, the play-by-play profile grew. And then I figured out, this is what I've always wanted to get into. And so ESPN was so great in really developing me as a play-by-play guy. I'd had the reps here and there, but then they brought me along, and I moved down to Charlotte where I could do more games, still contribute as a host to ESPNU for a number of years. And then about 5-6 years ago, I made the transition into a full-time play-by-play voice.
You're sort of a throwback almost in a sense of really wanting to do play-by-play. Do you feel that way?
No, I feel more like an aimless wanderer. I never really knew what I wanted to do. I loved doing play-by-play in college, and I loved doing play-by-play while I was coming up. But I liked doing the highlights. I liked hosting shows. I liked telling stories. I liked reporting when I worked in local news and doing feature stories. And I never really knew what the path would be. And I'd always been of the belief, hey, sometimes the detour becomes the destination. Or in this case, you sort of come full circle back to the original destination. And there's a part of me that still feels that way. I don't know what I want to do. I like to write. There are other things that maybe I'd like to try one day. So that has always been a part of me where anytime I feel I'm confined to this box and this is your role and this is what defines you, I get antsy and I want to try to go outside of the box and see what else I can do.
Getting in, like, you of course aren't going to start with the NFL. You have to start with a sport like lacrosse.
I was a scholarship kid at Syracuse. We were a middle-class family. So lacrosse, there was really no access point for me in any way, shape, or form. And then when I got to Syracuse, the goal was, hey, our college radio station allows you to do men's basketball, college football. And everybody at the radio station said, if you want to do those, learn lacrosse because that is your first foray into play-by-play. So the first game I ever did was my sophomore year, a Syracuse-Rutgers lacrosse game. So I had a little bit of a baseline knowledge and history of the sport. So jumping into it in ESPN, it was, while it's a niche sport, it was almost a logical entry point for me.
We believe you're the first minority to be the radio play-by-play in the NFL. Do you feel the weight of that on your shoulders?
No, I don't. I mean, frankly, I get asked about that a lot, and I've been asked about that a lot. And I view it in a couple of ways. One, I think it's a little surprising, a little shocking that it's taken this long for somebody to have that opportunity. And then secondly, I don't mind it as being part of the story, but when I see it sometimes as the headline, I think it diminishes the other things that I've done. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or narcissistic and say, here's my resume, but I felt like I had the credentials to be the voice of the Panthers, and I had the credentials to have this job and have this opportunity. And when that's the qualifier, hey, he's the first minority, and that's all there is this unsaid insinuation like that's why you got the job, instead of, hey, look what he's done in this business leading up to this point, which made him qualified for the job.
How did you get the job? Take me through that process.
You know, I had been without an agent. My old agent had left to go to another agency, and I didn't have an agent at the time. So I had linked up with Kristen Bredis La Femina from ICM, and she had some contacts in the NFL. So we were talking, and she said, hey, you know, this could be an opportunity. You're in your hometown. I'd expressed to her interest in that. And so let's get some tape to the Panthers. And so we got the process rolling. The Panthers used a search firm to, I think, weed out some of the candidates. So I want to say the first interview with them was in August. And it was around that same time I got my first taste of the NFL. I filled in on a preseason Broncos Seahawks telecast for Steve Levy while he was out doing some Monday Night Football stuff for ESPN. It was one of the local Denver telecasts. So it was kind of like, hey, this is neat, you know, being in an NFL stadium, calling an NFL game. And that reaffirmed to me, I really want this. And the Panthers being in my hometown, a place that I've now lived for more than a decade, where we've put down roots, where, you know, my daughter was born. That was like a no-brainer. Hey, if I can do this here, I don't have to move. I don't have to go anywhere. My daughter's growing up a Panthers fan. This would be pretty cool. So that process continued. And then early September, I had my first round of interviews with their executive producer and their director of broadcasting and a couple of other people. And they said, hey, be patient. And the last interview ended up being in January. So it was a process.
Your childhood teams, wouldn't you find it hard? I would find it so hard not to be kind of pulling for them if they were playing for if they were playing the Panthers and you're behind the mic.
You know what I've learned, and this goes for pretty much every sport that I cover, the longer that you're in it, you just start rooting for people more than teams. I remember reading something Peter Gammon said a long time ago. He said, this is a human business, and it's okay to root for people. It's okay to root for good people, and it's okay to be a human being. And I've always carried that with me. I think I read that when I was in college in some interview that he gave. And I remember thinking, yeah, you know, this is a very human business. And when you're on the inside of it, sometimes the teams really don't matter, but you come across somebody who's a good person, who treats you well. It's okay to say, hey, I hope he's successful down the road. And I think that's where I am.
Anish Shrop, thank you very much for joining us today, and good luck. Go Panthers.
Go keep pounding.